considerations that when you or I step up to that plate where actual parents may relinquish their responsibilities now, and where do we find the balance? That's where I think a lot of teachers will come into conversation as well, talking about the fact that they just don't have the support. So hopefully we can lend some of that support this morning as we chat with Mr. Wheeler, the Vice President of Tobago Youth Council, as he joins us here on The Now. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning to you, Anchor. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. It is such an honor to be here this morning.
Well, I'm glad that you are joining us to chime in on the conversation, because as we were saying before, it definitely came off of the heels of what was the first murder victim for 2025 on the Sister Isle. And so if we were to go straight into the conversation, what do we mean when we say that we are seeing students living a double life?
Well, according to the president of the Tobago Youth Council, it is quite conspicuous that some young people, they present what I would deem an alternate reality. The fact remains that, as we would say in Tobago, we make children, but we don't necessarily make them eyes. It is also important to note that socialization plays a critical part in a child's upbringing. So sometimes the things are done in an arbitrary manner, not recognizing that there are ramifications that would follow in the future. And oftentimes, when we're not very attentive, or we're not paying attention, or we're seeing grades, we're seeing excellent grades, and we're seeing good behavior at home, it is a bit challenging to discern that, yes, something other than excellent behavior is occurring. It is also important to mention that some young people are influenced by mass media, and I guess that is one of the downfalls or disadvantages associated with globalization. So we don't necessarily practice delayed gratification anymore. So we're seeing something, we want it now, it seems flashy, it seems glamorous, and because there is an easy way to obtain it, that is the route we're going to follow. I also feel as though we have veered a bit from that old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. And it is paramount that as young people, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who understand that the future is at stake, that we return to such practices. And sometimes it is really and truly up to us or up to parents to decide who is going to be the village. Yes?
Agreed. But do we actually recognize that the future is in danger? How do we recognize that double life in youth? Are there any signs or distinctions we should look for?
Well, I often say that nothing happens overnight. I feel as though sometimes we are not really interested in accepting our reality, and we live in a different world, or there are some truths that we just don't want to come to terms with. I think it's also very important that parents pay attention to the friends that the children are associated with. They pay attention to the content that they consume, because it is impossible, it's humanly impossible for parents to be aware of every single video that a child may come across on YouTube or TikTok. It is there. And while there are guidelines associated with these apps, the reality remains that persons communicate in code. So some people aren't aware what they're talking about, but there are certain slangs that are used, and they get the message. They understand what is being portrayed. And because it is something that is, I guess, glamorized, and it's popular, persons feel mobilized to participate.
So we've touched a little bit on what the parents can do, but as you talk about that village before, let's talk about the communities and what we can do outside of parenting or as non-parents to assist with making sure that these children are on the straight and narrow, so to speak.
Definitely. So I want us to understand that when we talk about crime, it is a multifaceted issue. It is not any one entity that is to be blamed. And as a result of that, especially from the standpoint of the Tobago Youth Council, we are very intentional with some of the initiatives that we put out there. So we would focus on things such as resume writing, because one of the challenges associated with persons participating in criminal activity is because there is still difficulty in terms of gaining employment. And sometimes that difficulty comes from persons not even knowing how to write a resume. In addition to that, we would have focused on mental health, having those sessions where persons would come and discuss, certain challenges that they're experiencing and how they can deal with that. And when we talk about the community at large, I think it is critical for persons to speak up. It is integral that persons no longer turn a blind eye to incidents that are happening within the community. I think we've developed this manner of thinking, well, if it's not affecting me directly, I am not interested in dealing with it. Not understanding that in the long run, there are ramifications associated with deviant actions.
Now, granted that we are acknowledging deviant action altogether, it would refer to persons who we've missed. We, the parents, we, the community, were not able to save, so to speak. And in that case, how do we reach those young persons?
I think we need to use the same methods that, are getting the attention of young persons to engage in, well, unfortunately, deviant behavior and kind of change that for the good. So we know that young people are fascinated by music. Why not have a music that is going to promote, reputable behavior? It is also important that we have young people involved in activities that is going to aid with their holistic development. Even when we look at it from an educational standpoint, it is my firm belief that there needs to be a restructuring in how content is delivered, even at the school level, because I feel sometimes as though we are hell-bent on the regurgitation of information. And sometimes for certain students, they cannot understand or they do not grasp content in a palatable manner. And it is easy to say that this does not necessarily, affect the crime rate or anything to that effect, not understanding that it's a continuous process. It's influences that would have occurred from, let's say, preschool leading up to the teen years, because that is what we're seeing, a proliferation of young people, teenagers in particular, associated in criminal activity. So those are some of the strategies we need to utilize in order to mitigate this challenge at this time.
Perhaps another strategy we can look at is how we interface or interact, with social media itself.
Yes,
amongst
indeed.
ourselves, we can agree that it is a big part of how we navigate the world right now. So how does the Youth Council plan to approach that part of things?
Well, the Tobago Youth Council has always been dedicated to providing young persons with an avenue where they can come and develop themselves in a positive manner. We have utilized the social media in an attempt to spread positive messages. At this time, we're looking and developing initiatives that are going to aid young people in understanding and respecting that there is life outside of crime. I know that one of the conversations that we are having, is bringing sports back into the community in a massive way. Collaborating with those young boys in particular who are on the streets and have them do something that is productive. So that is just one of the initiatives that I can share with you at this point that we're really working on, that we're communicating on, in order to curtail what is becoming a serious scourge.
Mr. Wheeler, tell me a little bit about the projects and initiatives that the Tobago Youth Council has in place, because you've mentioned or skimmed a bit, but give us some ideas of what we can look forward to even in the coming months, if they've not been ruled out just yet.
All right. Well, if I'm being quite frank with you, the Tobago Youth Council is yet to meet for the new year, so I cannot speak directly to all the initiatives that we are going to execute from now till about April. But this was a conversation from 2024, and it's something, in my capacity as Vice President, I am, dedicated to fulfilling. So in the past, we have had, as I shared, public speaking workshops, workshops focused on mental health, resume writing, and essentially skill-based workshops. And the Tobago Youth Council really and truly is the body that represents all youth. So we have other youth and NGOs under us, and as a result of that, other NGOs will have, piloted certain initiatives to aid with such, with the development of other young persons. In fact, I am the founder of Youth Transcending Boundaries also, and one of the initiatives that we would have carried out is unlocking my inner greatness. And that is really and truly showing young people that you have a purpose, you have a lot of potential, but it's just a matter of understanding how do I now use the potential that I have to do something productive and add true value to society.
Mm-hmm. Now, while I understand that the official rollout and discussions haven't been had, can you give us any sort of insight as to the feedback? Because these are conversations and initiatives that 2024 would have had examples for. Give us an idea of the reception that the youth has given to these options.
All right, sure. So we have been gaining the support of young Tobagonians on the island. I think what has played a critical role in that is the manner in which these initiatives are advertised. Young people are consumed by social media, and as a result of that, they have been seeing the WhatsApp invitations, they have been seeing the graphics on Instagram and even Facebook and have been participating. So I do feel as though we are reaching people. Of course, it is definitely the aim to reach more persons. In addition to that, I think the fact that we have a person who are still within the school system, to spread the message, that also aids in terms of getting students who are still in secondary school to participate in these initiatives. And honestly, there are people who come and they gain knowledge and they gain a perspective that they never had previously. So we do know that the work that we're doing is contributing to positive change.
Nice. That's what we like to hear. Now, while I do understand how easy it may be to approach students who are already in the school setting, we know that youth, especially by the government, is considered up to the age of 35. So beyond the teenage years, how do we approach the persons, let's say between that age of 20 to 35? Do we have particular initiatives that we've seen success in with this age group?
Well, I think it is also important to note that these initiatives does target the span of youth, and as you rightfully mentioned, that is from ages 12 up to 35. So we also have, that support from persons beyond the age of 18 and 19, because these are, they are structured in such a way that no matter how old you are, you will gain something meaningful. In terms of dealing with, criminal activity associated with persons in that age group. Again, I want us to understand that it's not a one-person thing, it's not a one-entity thing. It is crucial for us to come together as a people and work in unison, and that is something that spans over Trinidad and Tobago. For us to work together, I feel as though sometimes emphasis is placed on one particular body. And it's really crucial for us to, get back to that place where we work harmoniously in order to achieve a common goal. It cannot and could never be an I thing or this thing or that thing or them thing, but a we thing, because really and truly, if you allow me to be practical for a moment, is all our business. So we really and truly need to work together.
You're absolutely right. All are we involved? And if we wanted to get involved, how can we do that? Are there contacts or info you can share with us now that we can help the Tobago Youth Council as well?
Oh, most certainly. So you can definitely reach out to the Tobago Youth Council through Facebook and Instagram. You can also reach out to us via email at tobagoyouthcouncil@gmail.com.
Well, Mr. Wheeler, let me say thank you for joining us. Thank you for continuing to do good work. And hopefully we'll be able to check in with you before the first quarter of the year is out to get some more insight on how the Tobago Youth Council is taking a bite out of crime, so to speak.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
An absolute delight. Adriel Wheeler, the Vice President of the Tobago Youth Council, joining us this morning on the Now to give us some perspective on how they are tackling the problem of too many youth being involved in criminal activity out there in the Sister Isle. And so for now, we are going to take a quick break and come back with more here on the Now Morning Show.